Welcome. I'm Ingrid Rosild. I'm the New Mexico Collaborative Practice Group President, and I'm here sitting with our 2023 Best Collaborative Practitioner winner, co-winner with Emma Whitley. This is Renée Gwyther, and she is with Murata Wealth Partners. She's been a financial advisor for 18 years and started getting involved with collaborative divorce in 2010.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about your background and what got you initially into just wealth management in general.
So it's a great question. Initially, I wanted to be a physician, and
Okay.
I was a biology major, and I ended up realizing that is not something I wanted to pursue, but I was pretty late in my undergraduate career, and my parents said, we'll pay for 4 years of college and that's it. And so I thought, how do I get out of here in 4 years? And so I flipped my major and my minor, and I ended up with a Spanish degree.
Okay.
And I wasn't sure what I would do.
Good.
So eventually I became a pharmaceutical rep. And I thought that would be a nice marriage of my interest in medicine with my personality. And it just didn't turn out to be a good fit.
Okay.
So, but it was while I was with Pfizer, I started doing territory analysis, and I started doing more things that you would do in business school, which I had not been to business school. And I started working on my MBA at Anderson.
Okay.
And I happened to have 2 other CFPs in my family. My mom, who is now retired, was a CFP. And one of my older brothers is also a CFP.
Okay.
And so I remember well when I said, I love accounting. And my mom said, wait until you take finance. And so she kind of strong-armed me, I think, into the business, but it was a natural fit. So that's how I came into wealth management and financial planning.
Nice. Tell kind of in your journey from, so through school and what you started with and where you ended up being, what do you think is the most surprising thing to you in the work that you do that you thought that is enjoyable that you didn't actually anticipate you'd enjoy so much?
I think coming to work in general.
Yeah.
As a kid, you think, work, right?
Right.
It's work.
Right.
But it's not work.
Right.
Every day is different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I am surprised how much I love to be here, solving problems, running my own business.
Yeah.
I don't know that I ever thought I would be a small business owner, but that brings its own, as you know, its own unique challenges and opportunities, and nothing is the same.
Right. Always a changing environment.
Always a changing environment.
In our world.
So I think that's the biggest surprise is that every day I'm happy to come to work.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. Sounds like you found the right calling.
I think I found the right calling.
So tell us then the story about how you got involved in collaborative divorce and the New Mexico Collaborative Group.
Okay. Well, this is because you and I are in the same field. You know that we are taught. Get some estate planners, get some CPAs, become referral partners with them, and that's what you need to build your business. So as I was looking at continuing to build my business, I thought, everyone's doing the same thing. I want to do something different. And I had already done an introspective look at my clients, my pretty small book of business at that point in time, and went, who do I work with? Who do I work well with? Who does it seem likes working with me? And why? And it was women, particularly, who are in transition, oftentimes that transition being divorce. And I thought, well, how do I get more of those clients? And I had a colleague who was a CDFA here in Albuquerque, and another colleague in Santa Fe who was part of the Santa Fe group.
Okay.
And I reached out to the 2 of them and said, what's this divorce work you're doing? That seems like a good thing to do. And so they both spoke highly of it. One was not involved in collaborative, but one did introduce me to another one of our colleagues, and we went for breakfast, and I said, this is something I want to try. So that's how I came into it, really as here's a different opportunity where I think that my experience and maybe my style
Sure.
is a good fit.
Right.
And then again, keeping it different all the time. This was a different aspect of business that was exciting to me.
It definitely, collaborative divorce work and the work that we do as financial specialists definitely has some correlations with what we do for just general financial planning, but it does involve a different set of skills when you're dealing with, people in conflict. And so when you're talking to married couples in your regular financial, planning practice, that's one type of conversation. And then now when you're talking to people in conflict who are in pain and scared, and a lot of that stuff is sort of a different set of skills. And
Absolutely.
But it isn't, the work itself is not that different when you're just looking at, hey, how do we financially figure things out, educate these people, to get them to the finish line. Yeah. So how has collaborative practice and the movement in New Mexico impacted you professionally, and how has it impacted you personally?
Great questions. They kind of go hand in hand, because what has become a professional endeavor has become a very personal outcome as well, because the friendships, I think, that's the first thing I would speak to, is not only building a bigger circle of professional colleagues, but then those professional colleagues have become friends, and we golf, and we have wine, and we go to lunch, and it's nice to increase that sphere, because you have trusted people that you can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I'm dealing with this with one of my married couples in my non-divorce business. Can you help me? And I think that's reciprocated really well, because the trust has been there. I also think professionally, the trainings we do are impactful in my life.
Right.
Not just in my professional life, my personal life too.
Right.
We change over time, right? And who I am today versus who I was at 25 or 30, starting out in my career, of course that will change over time. But the collaborative movement and the training opportunities and learning how to see people where they are, I can't say enough how that skill set and those trainings and the opportunity to put myself, I think, in a different situation, that I'm not just talking numbers. I've been asked, or I've been tasked to do something beyond just the numbers, is helpful universally.
Yeah. That skill of having to, us doing work as a neutral in these cases is very impactful in a lot of ways, to put on that neutrality hat, to be able to see both sides of the story with equal validity, even if they may be contradicting, and understanding, the emotional impacts that people are going through during this process, the neuroscience behind it, all the trainings we've had about the amygdala brain, and what's happening when someone is flooded with emotions, and then how do we handle that as a neutral to try to maintain some balance in the room, and make sure we're representing everyone properly. I mean, it just is a different set of skills, and those trainings are really helpful, because they do. I mean, that these are trainings about how people relate personally, and so in my personal life, I use it a lot.
Exactly.
How can I be more reflective, and and reframing? When my daughter gets crazy and I've got to deal with her, like, how do I help her reframe maybe her perspective and things like that? So yeah, it's like a universal. Applicable everywhere.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I think too, one of the rewarding things is watching a team function.
Yeah.
And different teams function differently.
Sure.
But it is an opportunity to work on mastering the art of teamwork.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's so important.
Yeah.
And it really is quite a powerful self-development opportunity, and a lot of hard work.
Yeah. Yeah, and you meet these people who are in these cases, and you get to know them, and part of it too, though it is different from the rest of our business that we do as financial planners, is they come and they leave. We work with them, we get to know them, we help them, and then they do move on. Whereas in the other parts of our practice, we keep our clients around for a long time. But that short period of time, really getting to know some people who are struggling and helping them get to a successful resolution, is very rewarding. Very rewarding.
Absolutely.
So winning the award, what did that mean to you?
Going back to the community, we all want to be part of a community. It's validated that I'm part of the community, and that the hard work, I think we all are our toughest critics.
True.
So it's really nice to have other very accomplished people who I trust, believe in me. Right. It's a big boost.
Very validating.
Very validating.
Right. Well, and a lot of us, you've been on the board for the group before. You were treasurer. You've done a lot of volunteer work. I mean, the organization is a nonprofit organization. It requires a lot of volunteers to step in, and you've stepped up in a lot of ways, both on that statewide level and also on the local level, when that group was running a little bit more, back, I don't know how many years ago.
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID,
I blame everything on COVID. Everything is pre-COVID, post-COVID.
COVID definitely kind of put a damper on some of the things that we were doing. So your involvement in the community has been very active, and I think that's something that's, is part of that recognition, is that, doing collaborative work isn't just doing cases.
Right.
Doing collaborative work is being part of that community, helping that movement move forward, so that we can continue this work and we can bring more people to do this work, because the work is very rewarding. And, for me, I'm passionate about it because I do believe it's better for families. Right. And anything that's better for families is going to be better for our entire community, right? So if children are better taken care of in the divorce process, then that impacts how they behave in school and impacts the other children around them, et cetera, et cetera. That's a very small part of all of it. But, I think the award sometimes also represents not just casework. It represents what have you done with the community and the collaborative movement. And you've definitely been very involved over the years. So.
And I think, like anything, you get out of it what you put into it. And that very first conversation I had, that breakfast, I remember this colleague talking about professionals struggle with this collaborative group if they come in thinking they're going to get a case, and I think you reiterated that to me early on, thinking they're going to get all these cases, thinking you're using this as a marketing machine. Right. It's not a marketing machine. Right. It's a relationship-driven, trust-driven, put the work in sort of organization. And if you don't have that as a motivation, you're not going to stick around long. Right. Right. And we've seen people come and go over the years. And then we have the people who are never leave, which is great because they really do, they've bought into why this is such important work, in our communities. So, what do you see as your vision for collaborative practice in the future, over the next 5 to 10 years? What would you like to see happen? Well, you and I, we did the divorce in a day, for lack of
Yes.
a better word. And so I think there's so much more that we can do with it to offer it to a wider
Right.
group of people,
Mhm.
maybe in a slightly different form,
Right.
but to a wider group of people. And I think the coming together of different professionals is so powerful in what it delivers to families.
Right.
Because you don't have to have your family law attorney helping you through your divorce, and then, oh gosh, my life is changing financially. After I finish this, which is so difficult, then I'm gonna go sit with a financial. You're getting
Correct.
kind of this all-in-one.
Mhm.
And I think that we can really take the foundational elements that we had and build out these different options that leverage the strengths of
Yeah.
each of the disciplines
Yeah.
in the collaborative model to have a wider impact. So
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think that the
Mhm.
opportunity to be impactful for families
Mhm.
and to take this, it's like the domino effect you were talking about. If the children have better support through the divorce, they become better students, or
Mhm.
possibly don't slip as students,
Right.
etc. We can also bring this to other parts of the country that everybody needs it.
Yeah. You know, as you were talking about, you know, how we can bring this this process to more people, and the one-day divorce, or the done divorce that we've trademarked.
That's what it was.
The done
Pre-COVID.
divorce, pre-COVID.
Things
And
have slipped.
it has not gone away. It's just on hold, and we'll be working on that again. But that idea of that, what I love about collaborative practice in general is that you can become creative in it. And so, you know, this is a process and a model and a concept that has a certain level of creativity that can allow us to morph it, change it, and even within a case itself, you know, we can make changes and shift that process to match what those clients' needs are, or what the family's needs are. So that creative aspect, and the professionals that do enjoy that part, that creative piece, because I think to do this work you have to be creative. That is like where I see the future of collaborative as well, bringing, you know, these different versions of this, maybe something a little more efficient, maybe something less process heavy, maybe something that you know, appeals to a different economic group. So I think that creative underlying feature or aspect of collaborative in general is what it's going to allow for that to happen.
And then the trust, building on the trust and the camaraderie of the professionals to try a different model, try a different way. Remember when we did our very first divorce done case?
Done divorce, yes.
I think when I first got there, my fingers were shaking as I'm trying to quickly pull together all the financial information, but I did it knowing that you were there, and that Katie was there, and PJ was there, and there was support in the room and trust in the room to try to go out on a limb and try something different.
It's a high level of risk, you know, and to have the professionals in the room trust each other, you know, to do something new. That says a lot about that relationship, and the relationships we have with each other in this group. That's huge. Yeah,
and I think it just always highlights, again, going back to the team and to the trust and to the risk taking and trying something new. Communication.
Yeah.
If you just watch, and as I've gone through different cases, the cases where we tend to struggle is not because the complexity of the situation is what holds us back. It's the communication, and often it's among the professionals. And so I think there's always an opportunity to continue building, continue refining, and you can never under communicate. And that's what this has taught me in working on these collaborative cases, is I really don't think you can't ever over communicate.
Right.
You really can't.
Mm-hmm.
And that is applicable to business. That is applicable to family.
Sure.
And I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here,
But I mean, that is, the communication piece, I think, is also something that's very valuable in the trainings that we do, because there is certain kinds of communication that you need to be able to say and do and so forth, and perhaps mold how you're communicating, because it doesn't, you can't just, you got to learn those skills of that proper communication. How do you get your point across without alienating someone in the room or triggering someone, or et cetera, because it can be tricky. It can be very tricky.
Yeah.
But even the communication outside of just it sitting in a room with the clients, the communication amongst the professionals outside of a meeting or so forth also is incredibly important, and also has to be skillful, right? You can't just
Right.
I'm good. My communication skills are fine.
Yeah.
So the trainings, I think, really helps with that whole aspect of communication in our cases and amongst ourselves. I think it's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, thank you so much for your time today.